Hello and welcome to Heart Healthy Eating. My name is Brittany and I'm one of your Stop and Shop Nutrition Partners registered dietitians.
My name is Brittany and I'm one of your Stop and Shop pharmacists. Today we will discuss heart disease risk factors, take a look at nutrients that play a key role in heart health, and share simple swaps for leading a more heart-healthy lifestyle. Please note the information presented today is for educational purposes and is not to replace the advice of your medical team. Heart disease is a major health concern in the United States. It's the #1 cause of death for both men and women, responsible for 1 in every 5 deaths annually. Some risk factors include things like age, gender, heredity or family history, the diagnosis of high blood pressure or high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and even some lifestyle factors such as smoking, stress, alcohol, physical inactivity, and poor diet. Let's take a closer look at a few risk factors for heart disease. First up, cholesterol. So cholesterol is a lipid or fat that is produced by the liver and circulates in the bloodstream. This waxy substance comes from 2 sources. 1, your own body, and 2, the food that you eat. Although cholesterol is needed to help our bodies function properly, when we have too much circulating cholesterol, plaque can form on our artery walls, preventing different parts of the body from getting the oxygen and nutrients it needs to survive. There are 2 main types of cholesterol. We have LDL, sometimes called bad cholesterol, because it leads to plaque buildup, and higher levels of LDL can raise your risk of heart disease. I like to think of this as L for lousy. In contrast, HDL can be thought of as good cholesterol because it can protect against heart attack and stroke. A good way to remember this is H for helpful. HDL actually carries LDL, or the bad cholesterol, away from the arteries and back to the liver, where LDL is broken down and passed from the body. Your doctor may order cholesterol levels as part of your routine blood work. It's recommended that healthy adults have cholesterol levels checked every 4 to 6 years or so. Some people, such as those with heart disease or diabetes, or those who have a family history of high cholesterol or other risks, may need to get their cholesterol checked more often. A cholesterol panel that the doctor orders is composed of different measurements. This slide here shows the ideal levels for most people. Your total blood cholesterol is calculated by adding your HDL plus your LDL cholesterol and then another 20% of your triglyceride level. Triglycerides are another type of fat in the body that the body usually stores to use as energy. When too many triglycerides are detected in your blood, it can increase your risk for heart disease. And just a note here that normal ranges are generally considered less important than your overall cardiovascular risk. Hypertension is another word for high blood pressure, which means your heart is working harder than normal to pump blood throughout your body. Hypertension is a major health concern since nearly half of Americans have high blood pressure. Many times there are not any obvious symptoms. You can't feel that your blood pressure is high, so the best way to know if you have hypertension is simply to get it checked regularly. Risks from untreated high blood pressure include increasing the workload for your heart, hardening of the walls in your arteries, increasing the risk for heart disease and stroke, and even leading to heart failure or kidney disease. While some risks cannot be controlled, such as family history and age, other lifestyle factors can be controlled and can help delay or improve related risks or conditions. So for example, diet, exercise, and if prescribed, following your doctor's medication regimen, those are all things within our control that we can use to help improve our risk for heart disease. We'll be discussing diet and exercise today. These can have a great influence on your weight, blood pressure, and cholesterol. I'll now pass it over to Brittany, our dietitian, to talk about these lifestyle changes.
Thank you, Brittany. Now, according to the American Heart Association, a healthy lifestyle with plenty of exercise and a well-balanced diet is the best weapon against cardiovascular disease. Regular physical activity can help lower blood pressure, relieve stress, and help with weight management efforts. In fact, losing even a modest amount of weight, if you've been recommended to do so, say around 5 to 10% of your body weight, can improve various markers of health you may be discussing with your healthcare providers. It's recommended to get a minimum of 150 minutes of physical activity per week. If you're not meeting these recommendations now, simply start out slow and find ways to get your body moving more each day. Any activity that gets your heart rate up can count towards this goal, so really find enjoyable ways to get moving to help you stick with it. Turning our attention to eating patterns, the American Heart Association recommends consuming a range of nutritious foods and limiting nutrients that are harmful for heart health, such as excess sodium, saturated fat, and added sugar. The typical American diet is not heart healthy. It often includes too much saturated fat and sodium and not enough whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Today, we'll take a close-up on some key nutrients that are beneficial to heart health. Let's start with fiber. Fiber is the part of plant foods that your body can't digest. You'll find fiber in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lentils, beans, along with nuts and seeds. Fiber is either soluble or insoluble, and both are important for a heart-healthy diet. General fiber recommendations are to get about 25 to 38 grams per day, but this number can depend on factors like age. Fiber can help with weight management by helping you feel fuller for longer, and it can also help with heart health by reducing LDL, or our bad or lousy cholesterol, and overall cholesterol by binding these particles and moving them out of the body. A high fiber diet in general can help decrease the overall risk of heart disease. So let's talk about some ways we can add more fiber to our plates. Rather than just protein alone, add in some veggies to your mixtures. Blended meat mixtures are when you combine your ground meat with when you're making things like taco fillings, burgers, and meatballs with things like diced up mushrooms or zucchini, and even shredded carrots. Next, use nuts and seeds for crunch when making salads or yogurt bowls. Croutons on our salads typically have little to no fiber, and that granola used for yogurt parfaits can be packed with added sugar. Nuts and seeds, such as walnuts, cashews, and pumpkin seeds, can still give that satisfying crunch and add more fiber and healthy fats to your plate. And the last simple swap is to go for whole grains most often. When you're shopping for grain products, select whole grains such as whole wheat pasta, brown rice, and whole wheat bread. This way, when you make your meals with these items, you'll naturally have more fiber on your plate. Next up are fats. Fats are essential for overall health. Your brain is made of a substantial amount of fat. It helps fight inflammation, especially when we're getting in those omega-3s found in things like nuts and fatty fish. We also need fats to absorb our fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. And lastly, fats help with satiety. They help us feel full for a longer period of time and just overall more satisfied with our meals. There are different types of fats, and some are more nutritious than others. We want to include unsaturated fats and limit saturated fats. Let's take a closer look at the differences between these two. Unsaturated fats are our heart-healthy fats that we want to add to our plates because they provide all of those overall essential functions we just discussed and can also help lower cholesterol when chosen over saturated fats. You can find this type of fat in plant-based oils like olive and canola oils, along with nuts and seeds and their nut butters like peanut butter or almond butter. You can find it in avocado, fatty fish, as well as chia seeds and flax seeds. Saturated fats, on the other hand, are the ones we want to limit. And that's because these fats may raise LDL, that lousy blood cholesterol, and may increase the risk for heart disease and stroke. These fats are found mostly in animal products such as butter, cheese, heavy cream, ice cream, poultry with skin, fatty cuts of meats, and processed meats. You'll also find it in fried foods and tropical oils such as coconut and palm oil. When it comes to fats, one heart-healthy swap is to use an unsaturated fat oil such as olive oil in place of butter when cooking. Another tip is to use avocado for that creamy consistency we look for in sauces. You can use it in place of mayo when making tuna or chicken salad sandwiches too. The next tip to cut back on saturated fat is to choose lean and plant-based proteins in place of red and processed meats. For example, we have some beef chili, and that can be made more lean by using a recipe for turkey chili or even a vegetarian and bean chili. You can even start by doing half beef and half turkey or beans to your recipe to get adjusted and try those new flavors. For a beef stir fry, you could swap in shrimp or make it plant-based with edamame or tofu. Now let's talk about sodium. Sodium is a mineral that plays a role in important body functions such as fluid balance and regulation of our muscles and nerves. However, when we have too much sodium, it can raise blood pressure and have a negative effect on heart health. And most Americans are having a lot of sodium, about 3,400 milligrams, when the recommendations would be to have less than 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams per day. By cutting back on sodium, you can have an improved blood pressure and reduce the risk for heart disease. Sodium is pretty sneaky. It's found in salt, but think beyond just that salt shaker you might have at the dinner table. In fact, the majority of our sodium intake does not come from adding it when we're cooking and eating. While eating salt certainly does contribute to our sodium intake, current estimates show that about 70 to 80% of our sodium intake comes from processed and restaurant foods. Major sources of hidden sodium include breads and rolls, cold cuts, pizza, canned soup, frozen foods, and condiments. With that statistic in mind, let's talk about swaps we can consider when choosing processed foods to help cut back on overall sodium intake. When buying canned foods such as beans and vegetables, try to look for low sodium or no added salt options. Some canned bean options can have nearly 400 milligrams of sodium per serving. Another tip, drain and rinse beans and vegetables under cold running water before you use them. This can also help cut back on that sodium content. For soups and broths, look for low sodium options. Canned soups also tend to be quite high in sodium. Many options can be over 650 milligrams per serving, but many brands luckily have lower or reduced sodium options, or you could try making your own. Condiments and sauces can be another sneaky sodium source. It's also important to be mindful of portion sizes with these things. It can be really easy to have multiple servings of these, which means you're having even more sodium than what's listed on that food label for one serving. When you can, try to find low or reduced sodium options, and you can even try to add flavor in other ways. Try adding flavor with herbs and spices, even citrus, to add flavor to those meals while cutting out the sodium from packaged condiments and sauces. And when it comes to pre-made spice blends, such as taco seasoning packets, those can have added sodium too. Instead of going for a pre-made package blend, use a mix of dried herbs and spices to create your own sodium-free blend. So for that taco seasoning, think of spices like onion powder, paprika, chili, and cumin will give you that similar flavor. A helpful tool to keep in mind when shopping for heart health is the food label. You'll be able to see the nutrients we just talked through, and with that knowledge in mind, you can compare items to find those that are higher in those heart-healthy nutrients like fiber and unsaturated fat, and those that are lower in the nutrients that we want to limit, like added sodium and saturated fat. To wrap up, we wanted to put all of those tips we've shared today into practice and highlight how you can build nutrient-rich, heart-healthy meals. And these type of meals don't have to be boring and bland. All of the recipes I'll share are under 300 milligrams of sodium, packed with fiber, and they are still full of flavor, such as these salmon wraps that are packed with heart-healthy fats from both the salmon and avocado. And we have one for the pasta lovers. Make homemade heart-healthy chicken meatballs and toss them over whole grain pasta. This plant-based recipe features air-fried tofu, the perfect cooking method for adding a nice crispness to tofu. And for an easy lunch, you can whip up this quick chipotle chicken salad. The recipe includes instructions for a simple yogurt dressing. It'll satisfy that craving for a creamy dressing without having as much saturated fat. You can find these recipes and more heart healthy options on our Heart Healthy shoppable page. I hope these tips will help support your heart healthy lifestyle. Thank you for watching and feel free to reach out to us with any questions.